This is the video training manual for starting an inventory count in Basis. So before I even go there, there's just a few things that I want to explain and some requirements. One of the things that we need to make sure is that we have the latest list of items contained in our iOS devices or in our handhelds. So in order to do that, normally we set up a process to do that automatically. If you want to do it manually and you want to make sure that it's done, all we have to do is from the main menu of Basis, we go to data transfer. We select which warehouse we want to scan. We make sure that we select the product. There's a few other information that are required. Typically, if you're using BV Essentials, you're using this one. Otherwise, just products. This is to import from Business Vision or BV Essentials. If you're using Sage 300 or AccountMate, it'll be covered in a different video. And then you click on import. So by clicking on import, what that does is that will bring in all the items from the accounting package into the desktop, and the last step will be to prompt you to send to cloud. So you can do that on a regular basis, and as mentioned, we can set that up to happen on a daily basis or on an hourly basis to happen by itself. So it's good to know where it is and how it works, but if necessary, we can just automate that function. So the purpose of this is just to supply the list of items to the iPad so that when they are local to the machines, so that when they get scanned, it's instant and we don't have to wait for a connection to the internet. So this is really not related to the inventory, it's just preparing, making sure we have all the items. So let's assume that we have that and our inventory is right. We can go to inventory, and actually if we look here, we can see at the bottom of our screen, we see a count. And if I go to the last record, I can see that in my count currently I have 1,018 items. If I looked on the screen of my device, on the inventory counting screen, it tells me how many items are on the iPad or on the iPhone as well, and those numbers should always match. If they don't match, then we have a problem. So from here I'm going to go, so this is the information that was just imported. This is just for reference, and this is also where we find if we're missing UPC codes or if we're missing item. So from here I'm going to go to my inventory counting, and every time I open this screen it's going to always ask me if I want to import the data from the cloud. I'm going to say yes, and what happens when I do that, there is a window that opens, a black window, if I had information, and then he wants me to refresh it, I always say yes. So basically what that does is that just permits to have information that would have been scanned before to be brought in. And it's good to do even if we haven't started inventory, because what may happen is that some scans may have been done as a test, and we want to make sure that there's nothing lingering on the server. So the first thing we have to do when we're starting a new inventory is to clear up the inventory from before. By definition, Basis will keep all the inventory from the previous screen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the button down here that says clean up all table, and what that will do, that will basically erase all of my counts. So I want to make sure that I only do that at the beginning. So at this time, because I'm starting, I'm going to say yes. I get quite a few warnings because it's critical. If we do that in the middle of the inventory, we're going to lose everything. So I'm going to say yes again. So now I start with a brand new slate. So what I have in the middle is my grid. It's empty right now because I haven't started my count. The only other thing I need to decide before I start my count is what is it that I'm counting. If I'm counting all the warehouses, I just check all warehouses and I click on Start Stop Inventory. What that will do is it will create a full image of my inventory, meaning it's going to copy all my items that are from my system and bring them into a table so they can be compared as I'm going through on my inventory count. So I have three choices. I can click on all my warehouses. I can just pick and choose which warehouse I'm going to count, and again click Start Stop Inventory. I can also add a filter. So for example, if I only wanted to count items that start with 100, for example, I can do this. Either begins, ends, or anywhere within the string has 100. I can do that. I can also select an inventory by product code, again that begins, ends, or is within the string. And once I've picked my criteria and started my inventory, that's basically the deck that I have to scan against. So if I have 10 items that start with 100 in the example I have on the screen, is that then I'm supposed to go and scan all my items that start with 100. If I don't scan all my items that start with 100, then I'll be able to have a report that shows me any item that's part of my selection criteria, the 100, that have not been scanned. So the idea is that if we're supposed to have 10 items that start with 100, we want to go and count them all. If we didn't count them all, then we have a report that'll give us that. We also have a report that'll show us what we scanned versus what we didn't scan. That'll be for the next video when we're going to review the inventory. In terms of the startup, all we want to do is make sure that we understand what is it that we're counting. So as I said, we can count a whole warehouse, we can count a range of items, or we can not start an inventory at all. We can just go ahead with the scanner and scan specific items. And once we come back and we have the items on the screen, we'll do the snapshot after the fact. That's when this button here at the top comes into play that says scanned item only. What that will do is that that'll allow us to just scan the items that, just count the items that we want, and then review it only based on those items regardless. And we always want to compare all the items that we've counted. So if we have items in multiple locations, we have to make sure we count all of the items that are part of our count, so that we're comparing apples to apples when we're comparing it back to our inventory in our accounting system. So as far as the startup is concerned, this is it. We're ready to go start. This screen won't be used again until we have a few scans that we want to review. And as the scans are being sent by the server, we're just going to refresh the screen and they'll start collecting here, and we'll be able to review them. So in the next video, we're going to review that as well as just go over all the buttons here.